This is Diana from Droid's newsletter. I'm here with Aaron Edsinger from Hello Robot. So, Aaron, so happy you could join us here today.
Fantastic to join you.
You have a fascinating background as a researcher. What got you interested in founding Hello Robot?
It has been a journey. Previously, I was at Google, director of robotics there. And while there, I started a program that became their home robot effort and really started thinking carefully about what it would take to get robots into the home and realized that to do it, we really had to tackle the problem in a different way, that we needed something that was practical, viable, safe, simple. And so, this is back in 2017, I'd say. I saw a cool video out of Georgia Tech from my old colleague and collaborator, Charlie Kemp. And it showed a very minimal robot, telescoping arm, doing simple tasks around the house under teleoperation. And I thought, this is a path forward. It has to be more like a Roomba with an arm than a large humanoid clomping around in your house, right? And so that vision excited me. I left Google and Charlie and I started Hello Robot back in 2017. My first company was a humanoids company. I studied humanoids at MIT with Rodney Brooks, and I spent a good decade plus building humanoids and knows firsthand the complexity, the trade-offs, the failure modes. And so it's with good reason with Hello Robot, we're not building a humanoid. And we're also taking from the ground up the notion of safety very seriously. Beyond that, we've been working with people with tetraplegia, with severe disabilities, to let them regain some agency in the home. So in that case, they're able to control the robot through a mobile phone interface. There is some autonomy, so you could tell the robot to go to the kitchen, for example. But then they have direct agency and control over the robot in order to do simple things. So one thing, we have one pilot study we're doing where the person just wants to be able to scratch an itch. Imagine you have an itch on your head, but you can't scratch it. Or in another case, give themselves, a shake to drink from without having a caregiver stand there and hold the drink for the 5 minutes or so that it would take to drink. So these simple actions we find can be very meaningful for the people using the robot. And they're not particularly dexterous. You think about robots, they're doing acrobatics, they're doing laundry. These are very simple tasks, but they're achievable today. And they provide immense value to the people who are working with the robot. And so for us, this is a path into robots in the home. It's being realistic about what's achievable with the technology as it is. Because homes are very challenging environments, and working around people safely is very challenging. But we know that we can do these things today and that people value them. And so to us, that's the starting point.
What is the research with Hello Stretch for these kind of unique challenges that come with working with either somebody who's disabled and has a lot of medical equipment around, or this older population?
Yeah, it's a great point. Is homes do not look like the model home you see in a lot of robot videos, right? This beautiful Danish furnished, modern, spacious. Not many homes look like that. People will have cluttered pets, throw rugs, blanket, all sorts of things that you're not going to have in your prototype lab space where you're testing your algorithms. There's a few things that we do there. And I should say it's still a fairly unsolved problem to move about homes reliably in that type of setting, right? First off, the size of the robot matters. With our robot, we did a lot of work to make the base of it compact, and the whole body fits within that footprint. So it's much closer to a human footprint because we make very tight corridors that we navigate within our home, and we can know how to just carefully brush through something without bumping into it. And so we arrange our homes in that way. And so a robot that is fundamentally wider, bigger, isn't going to work. And if you look at a lot of the even wheeled systems that are being proposed for in-home use, they're just too big. Then secondly is just having good sensing for the types of hazards you've described. Often, if you just have a couple of cameras up high, it's very hard to distinguish what's happening down at the floor surface where rugs can get crumpled and cords and pets and all that type of thing. So we have a multi-layered sensing suite. Some is down on the base, some is up high. And then finally, the most important thing is getting out into the world with the robot and testing it. And for us, the most important thing is that it gets adopted, it gets used every day. And for that to happen, it has to be easy to use, delightful to use, doing something valuable that you choose to turn it on every morning. And to do that, it's less about solving deep technical problems around physical AI. It's more about how do you think about that whole experience of the product and the things that these people would like to have solved, and making sure all that lines up.
You were talking about the beautiful Danish home that they show these videos in. I was thinking about one of them where they showed the docking station. Like, there's nothing else in the room, and I'm like, who has that kind of space for?
Exactly. When I was at Google and we were exploring, doing early work, trying to understand what it would mean to put a robot in a home, in one experiment we ran, it was we just got a big cardboard box and wrote robot on it and put it in the homes of some people that we were testing with, just to see like, what does it mean to have something this big in your house? And very quickly you find like they end up tossing it in the garage. You just have it lurking in your living room. Where do you put it? And so with robot we built, we wanted it to feel more like a vacuum cleaner. You can roll it out of the way and it's not occupying psychological and physical space in your home.
It's interesting. You've used a lot of terms, is I guess especially when you're dealing with older people, is making it feel like something that's already familiar to them rather than bringing in that something going to feel foreign to them.
Exactly. And it's a huge challenge. I can't say that we have figured out exactly the right path forward. We're still learning about what people will accept. One thing we have learned is, particularly if you're looking at augmenting caregiving in the home, which is a space that we're interested in, you have an older adult in the care network. There's an opportunity to have robots augment that care. I have an aunt who is in the area who's bedbound, and at night, there's no one there to care for her. If she needs to get a drink of water, it could be dangerous for her to get up. Importantly, the care network has to really accept and adopt the device. If it makes their life more challenging than it already is, it's not going to get adopted. And for us, we call that the caregiver principle. You have to think about that whole picture of what does it mean for people to want to use these robots. We just launched Stretch 4, fourth generation of the robot, back in May, with a ground up redesign, knowing that we're going to be moving into the home with this device. So Stretch 4 is fully redesigned, much more polished. We're making that transition into a robot for the home. It still requires a keyboard. You have to program it. It's getting easier and easier to work with in that way, especially with agentic coding, which has changed what's possible. But importantly, we're with this version of the robot, we're able to pilot it in homes, and we're working with people with mobility impairments and letting them explore what they can do with it.
It's interesting how open seniors are to this idea of robotics and allowing them to maintain their independence.
This is where we're pointed right now in terms of what we want to do with the product, where we want to take the company. It's challenging. There's a lot of challenges beyond just the technology. How do you sell this? Who's paying for it? How do you support it? How do you make it valuable enough that it can justify the cost of this fairly complex device? Uh, so all those problems have to get sorted out. What we know is that there's a real demand. There's a real need there. And in the case of people with the mobility impairments, we know that simple things can have huge value. For someone to stay in their home longer or even an extra year or two can be hugely valuable. And so to the extent that we can enable that with Stretch, that's what we're trying to do. What we can do is with caregivers, and even letting remote caregivers hop on and do a wellness check or a safety check. Those simple things can let people stay at home longer. And there's millions of older adults in the world today that are looking for ways to do that.
If we were to have this conversation a year from now, or I bump into you at the Humanoid Summit, what would we be talking about?
I think we'd be talking about, with respect to Hello Robot, at least, we'd be talking about the pilots and deployments that we're doing and the path to commercialization, the path to having robots in the home beyond Roombas. These are general purpose robots in the home doing useful, meaningful activities that people value and are willing to pay for. We're on the path to being the first to really do that. There's 1X doing humanoids that are teleoperated. There's lots of activities of robots going into the home, but they're not creating value in of themselves without, these large kind of VR infrastructures, remote operators. We're trying to build that first real application that is a product proposition, a business proposition that all lines up and makes sense. So a year from now, I would hope that we could tell you we're doing it. We have line of sight to selling these, and people would be thrilled to buy them.